A single mom fixed one small errand. It could easily saved the millionaire sea slave. She was just trying to get through another shift. A tired single mother, working late into the night, noticed something no one else did: a tiny mistake in a document that would pass through a dozen hands before morning. She hesitated. Fixing it wasn't her job. She could have walked away, but something told her to stay. That one quiet decision, made in an empty office at midnight, would set off a chain of events that would save a powerful man's life, transform her struggling family, and prove that the smallest acts of integrity can change everything. This is the story of how one woman's conscience became a miracle. Maya Henderson woke every morning at 5:30, though her body begged for more rest. The alarm clock's harsh buzz cut through the silence of the small apartment, and she would rise in the darkness, careful not to disturb her son, Daniel, who slept on the fold-out couch in the living room. Their apartment was small, just one bedroom that Maya had given to Daniel, while she made do with a corner sectioned off by a curtain. The building was old, with pipes that clanged and windows that rattled in the wind, but Maya kept it immaculately clean. Dignity, her mother had always told her, costs nothing. By 6 o'clock, Maya had coffee brewing and was packing Daniel's lunch: a sandwich with the last of the peanut butter, an apple she had carefully inspected at the discount grocery store, and a small bag of pretzels. She always put a note inside. Sometimes a simple "I love you," sometimes a small drawing of a heart, sometimes a reminder that he was her whole world. Daniel emerged from his blankets at 6:20, rubbing his eyes. At 8 years old, he had learned to be independent. He dressed himself, brushed his teeth, and came to the table without complaint. "Morning, baby," Maya said softly, kissing the top of his head. "Morning, Mama," he replied, his voice still thick with sleep. They ate breakfast together, oatmeal with a sprinkle of brown sugar, and talked about his day ahead. Daniel was a bright child, always at the top of his class, always curious. His teachers said he had potential, that he could do great things. Maya believed them. She had to. At 7:15, they walked together to the bus stop. Maya worked as a night custodian at Crawford Financial Group, a gleaming office building downtown, but her shift didn't start until 9 in the evening. During the day, she picked up hours wherever she could, cleaning houses, doing laundry for neighbors, sometimes helping at the community center. "You remember what we talked about?" Maya asked as the school bus approached. "Yes, Mama. Work hard, be kind, and remember who I am," Daniel recited, a familiar mantra. "That's right, baby. You're a Henderson. We don't give up, and we don't cut corners." Daniel nodded seriously, gave his mother a tight hug, and climbed onto the bus. Maya watched until it disappeared around the corner, then turned to face her own long day. The hours between Daniel's departure and her evening shift were a blur of work and worry. Today she cleaned 2 houses, scrubbing floors and washing windows with meticulous care. Her clients trusted her, recommended her to others. Maya took pride in that trust. In a world that had given her so little, her reputation was everything. By 7 in the evening, Maya was exhausted. But she couldn't rest yet. She picked Daniel up from the after-school program, helped him with homework, made dinner from the ingredients she had carefully rationed through the week. Tonight it was spaghetti with a simple tomato sauce and garlic bread, Daniel's favorite. "Mama, can I ask you something?" Daniel said as they ate. "Of course, baby. I know we need money, but you're always so tired." Maya set down her fork and looked at her son. His eyes were so much like his father's, warm and questioning. His father, Marcus, had died in a construction accident when Daniel was only 2. The settlement barely covered the funeral costs. "I work so much," Maya said carefully, "because I want to give you a better life than I had. I want you to have opportunities, to go to college, to become whoever you want to be. And that takes sacrifice, honey. But it's a sacrifice I make gladly because you're worth every single moment." Daniel's eyes filled with tears, and he came around the table to hug her. Maya held him tight, drawing strength from his small body, reminding herself why she kept going. At 8:30, Maya's neighbor, Mrs. Chen, knocked on the door. The elderly woman watched Daniel on the nights Maya worked, refusing to accept more than a token payment. "You go on now," Mrs. Chen said, shooing Maya toward the door. "This boy and I have checkers to play. Maya kissed Daniel goodnight, grabbed her work bag, and headed out into the cooling evening air. The bus ride downtown took 40 minutes. She used the time to close her eyes and gather her strength for the long night ahead. Crawford Financial Group occupied 12 floors of a steel and glass tower in the heart of the city. Maya entered through the service entrance, signed in with the security guard, a kind man named Robert, who always asked about Daniel, and took the freight elevator to the supply closet on the 3rd floor. She changed into her work uniform, a simple blue jumpsuit with custodial services embroidered on the pocket, and began her rounds. The building was quieter at night, though never completely empty. Traders worked late, preparing for international markets. Executives stayed for conference calls with overseas clients. Maya moved through the halls like a ghost, emptying trash bins, vacuuming carpets, cleaning bathrooms, wiping down conference room tables. She took pride in her work. Every surface she cleaned thoroughly. Every detail mattered. It was her nature, the way she was raised, and she couldn't do it any other way. It was just past midnight when Maya reached the executive floor, the 12th floor, where the company's senior leadership had their offices. This was always her last stop, and she was always careful here. These offices belonged to people who made more in a day than she made in a year. She started with the conference rooms, then moved to the individual offices. Most were locked, but the custodial staff had master key access for cleaning. Maya had been trained never to disturb papers on desks, never to move personal items, never to pry. She came to the office of Richard Crawford himself, the CEO and founder of Crawford Financial Group. The door was slightly ajar, which was unusual. Maya knocked softly, a habit she maintained even when she was certain no one was inside. No answer. She pushed the door open and entered. The office was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a desk that looked like it cost more than her car, leather furniture that gleamed in the soft light of the desk lamp that had been left on. Maya began her routine, emptying the small trash bin, dusting the surfaces, preparing to vacuum. As she reached to turn off the desk lamp, something caught her eye. A document lay on the desk, marked Confidential, Board Review. Maya knew she shouldn't look. It wasn't her business, but the header caught her attention. Proposed merger, Steel Industries, due diligence report. She turned away, began to vacuum. But something nagged at her. Years ago, before Daniel was born, Maya had taken business courses at community college. She hadn't finished, life had gotten in the way, but she had learned enough to understand financial documents. She glanced at the paper again. It was foolish. She should just finish her work and leave, but Maya had always been thorough. It was her nature, and something about the document bothered her. She set down the vacuum and, with a glance at the door, picked up the document. It was a detailed financial analysis of the proposed merger between Crawford Financial Group and a company called Steel Industries. The merger was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Maya scanned the pages. Most of it was beyond her complex financial terms, projections, risk assessments. But there on page 7, she saw something that made her pause. A column of numbers. Revenue projections for Steel Industries over the past 3 years. The numbers showed steady growth, impressive returns, a company on the rise. But something was wrong. Maya looked closer. The numbers in the 3rd column, the most recent year, didn't align with the totals at the bottom. She pulled out her phone and opened the calculator app. She added the quarterly figures: $47.2 million, $51.3 million, $48.7 million, $52.1 million. The total should have been $199.3 million, but the document showed $299.3 million. $100 million discrepancy. Maya's heart began to race. She checked again, certain she had made a mistake, but no, the math was clear. Someone had either made an error in the spreadsheet or the thought chilled her. Someone had deliberately falsified the numbers. She set the document down with trembling hands. This wasn't her responsibility. She was a custodian. She cleaned offices. What did she know about mergers and financial documents? But Maya thought about what $100 million error could mean. If Crawford Financial Group entered this merger based on false information, the company could be ruined. People could lose their jobs. Families could be destroyed. And there was another possibility, darker and more troubling if the numbers had been manipulated intentionally. This could be fraud, and Richard Crawford, if he signed off on this merger, could be held responsible. Maya looked at the clock. It was 12:30 in the morning. She should finish her work, go home, forget she ever saw this document. But she thought of Daniel, asleep at Mrs. Chen's apartment. She thought of the values she tried to instill in him. Work hard, be kind, remember who you are. Who was she? She was a woman who didn't cut corners, a woman who did things right even when no one was watching. Maya took a deep breath, pulled out her phone, and took a photograph of page 7, making sure the numbers were clearly visible. Then she carefully placed the document exactly where she had found it, finished cleaning the office, and left. For the rest of her shift, her mind raced. What should she do with this information? Who could she tell? Would anyone even believe her? By the time her shift ended at 6 in the morning, Maya had made a decision. It was risky, probably foolish, but it was the right thing to do. She would report what she had found. Maya barely slept that morning. She picked up Daniel for Mrs. Chen's, made him breakfast, got him ready for school, all while her mind churned with what she had discovered and what she planned to do about it. After dropping Daniel at the bus stop, Maya didn't go home to rest. Instead, she showered, changed into the nicest clothes she owned, a simple navy dress and flats she usually reserved for church, and took the bus back downtown. She arrived at Crawford Financial Group at 9:15, but this time she entered through the main lobby, not the service entrance. The lobby was magnificent, all marble and glass and modern art. Maya felt out of place immediately, aware of how modest her dress was compared to the designer suits flowing past her. She approached the reception desk where a young woman with perfect makeup and a sleek haircut looked up with a professional smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Good morning. How can I help you?" "I need to speak with Richard Crawford," Maya said, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. The receptionist's smile became slightly condescending. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, I don't, but I have important information about a confidential document. It's urgent." The receptionist's expression shifted to something between amusement and annoyance. "Mr. Crawford is the CEO of this company. He doesn't take unscheduled meetings. If you'd like to leave a message—" "This is about the steel industry's merger," Maya interrupted. "There's an error in the due diligence report. A significant error." The receptionist's eyes narrowed. "And you are?" "My name is Maya Henderson. I work here. Night custodial staff." Recognition flickered across the receptionist's face, followed by thinly veiled disdain. "I see. Well, Ms. Henderson, if you have concerns about your custodial work, you should speak with your supervisor." "This isn't about custodial work," Maya said firmly. "This is about a $100 million discrepancy in a financial document, and I need to speak with Mr. Crawford or someone on his executive team immediately." The receptionist stared at her for a long moment, then picked up the phone. "Let me see what I can do. Please have a seat." Maya sat in one of the sleek waiting area chairs, her heart pounding. She felt the eyes of everyone passing through the lobby, the curious glances, the dismissive looks. She clutched her phone where the photograph of the document was saved, and prayed she was doing the right thing. 20 minutes passed, then 30. Maya was about to give up when a man in an expensive suit approached her. "Ms. Henderson, I'm David Park, General Counsel for Crawford Financial Group. I understand you have some information about a confidential document?" Maya stood. "Yes, sir. It's about the steel industry's merger. There's an error in the revenue projections." David Park's expression was professionally neutral, but Maya saw the flash of concern in his eyes. "Perhaps we should discuss this in private. Would you come with me?" He led her to a small conference room on the second floor. Once they were seated, he pulled out a legal pad and a pen. "Tell me exactly what you saw, Ms. Henderson." Maya took a deep breath and explained everything: how she had been cleaning Mr. Crawford's office, how she had noticed the document, how the numbers didn't add up. She showed him the photograph on her phone. David Park studied the image carefully, his expression growing more serious with each passing second. He pulled out his own phone and made several calculations. "You're certain about this?" he asked. "Yes, sir. I checked 3 times. He looked at her with new respect. "Ms. Henderson, do you understand the implications of what you're telling me?" "I think so, sir." If the company makes decisions based on wrong information, it could be very bad. Very bad is an understatement, David said quietly. Ms. Henderson, you may have just saved this company from a catastrophic mistake, possibly even saved Mr. Crawford's career. Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had done the right thing. I need you to wait here, David said, standing. I need to verify this information and speak with Mr. Crawford immediately. Can you stay? I have to pick up my son from school at 3, Maya said. David glanced at his watch. It was 10:15. That should be fine. Please, help yourself to coffee or water. Someone will be with you shortly. He left, and Maya was alone in the conference room. She texted Mrs. Chen, explaining she might be late and asking if she could get Daniel from the bus stop if needed. Mrs. Chen, bless her, agreed immediately. An hour passed, then 2. Maya's anxiety grew. Had she made a terrible mistake? Would they think she was snooping where she didn't belong? Could she lose her job? Finally, at 12:30, the conference room door opened. David Park entered, followed by Richard Crawford himself. Richard Crawford was in his early 50s with silver hair and sharp blue eyes. He was tall, fit, and radiated the kind of confidence that came with success and power. Maya stood, her legs suddenly unsteady. Ms. Henderson, Richard Crawford said, extending his hand. I'm Richard Crawford. I understand I owe you a profound debt of gratitude. Maya shook Richard Crawford's hand, surprised by the warmth in his grip and the genuine gratitude in his eyes. Please, sit, he said, taking a seat across from her. David Park sat beside him, opening a laptop. Ms. Henderson, Richard began, David has explained what you discovered, and we've spent the last 2 hours verifying your finding. You were absolutely correct. There was a critical error in the revenue projections for steel industries, but what you may not realize is that this wasn't a simple mistake. Maya's stomach tightened. What do you mean? Richard exchanged a glance with David, then continued. We've traced the origin of this document. It was prepared by our M&A team based on information provided directly by Steel Industries. When we compared it to the actual quarterly reports filed with the SEC, we found that Steel Industries' own documentation shows the correct numbers, the lower numbers that you calculated. So someone at Steel Industries changed the numbers? Maya asked. That's what it appears, David said, and not just changed them randomly. The modification was sophisticated enough to pass initial review. If this merger had gone through based on these falsified projections, Crawford Financial Group would have paid a vastly inflated price for a company worth significantly less than represented. But more than that, Richard added, his voice grave, I would have personally certified these numbers to our board of directors and, eventually, to the SEC. When the fraud came to light, and it would have come to light eventually, I could have faced criminal charges for securities fraud, even though I had no knowledge of the manipulation. Maya's eyes widened. They were trying to frame you? Perhaps not specifically frame me, Richard said, but certainly they were willing to let me take the fall. In high-stakes fraud cases, prosecutors go after the people at the top. My career would have been destroyed. I could have gone to prison, and this company, which employs over 3,000 people, could have been devastated. The weight of what Maya had prevented settled over her like a heavy blanket. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now, David said, we've immediately halted all merger discussions. We've documented everything, and we'll be reporting this to the appropriate federal authorities. Steel Industries leadership will face serious legal consequences. And you, Ms. Henderson, Richard said, leaning forward, you saved not just my career, but potentially the livelihoods of everyone who works for this company. You had no obligation to notice that error. You had no obligation to report it. You could have simply done your job and gone home, but you didn't. Why? Maya thought about her answer carefully. My mother used to say that integrity is what you do when nobody's watching. I teach my son that we don't cut corners, that we do what's right even when it's hard. If I'd seen that error and done nothing, how could I look him in the eye and tell him to be honest, to be thorough, to care about his work? Richard Crawford was quiet for a long moment, his eyes bright with emotion. Ms. Henderson, I have led this company for 27 years. I have worked with some of the brightest minds in finance, people with degrees from the best universities in the world, and yet it was you, working the night shift, who had the attention to detail and the moral courage to save us all. That tells me everything I need to know about character. He stood and walked to the window, looking out over the city. "I want to do something for you, Ms. Henderson. I don't want a reward," Maya interrupted gently. "I just did what was right." Richard turned to face her, a slight smile on his face. "I appreciate that. But doing the right thing should not go unrecognized. At the very least, please allow me to ensure you're properly compensated for your time today. And I'd like to offer you a position in our company, something that better utilizes your obvious skills." Maya's heart leaped, but she forced herself to think carefully. "What kind of position?" "We have an opening in our compliance department," David said. "It's an entry-level position, but it comes with full benefits, regular hours, and a salary significantly higher than your current compensation. It would also provide opportunities for advancement and for the company to sponsor further education if you're interested." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. A day job. Benefits. The possibility of going back to school. "I don't know what to say." "Say consider it," Richard said warmly. "Talk it over with your son. Take a few days to think. But Ms. Henderson, may I hope you'll accept, people with your integrity are rare. This company would be better with you in it." Maya nodded, not trusting herself to speak. "In the meantime," Richard continued, "I've asked HR to process an immediate bonus for you in recognition of your service to this company. It's not charity, it's recognition of genuine value provided." David slid an envelope across the table. "This check represents 6 months of your current salary. Consider it a thank you and a bridge to help you transition to a new role if you choose to accept it." Maya opened the envelope with shaking hands. The check was for $24,000. She had never seen so much money in her life. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." Richard came around the table and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "No, Maya, thank you. You didn't just save my career. You reminded me what this company should be about. People with integrity, people who care, people who do the right thing, even when it costs them something." He paused, then added, "I lost sight of that somewhere along the way. I built this company on relationships and trust, and then I let it become just about numbers and deals. You've reminded me what really matters." Maya picked Daniel up from school that afternoon in the days. She held the envelope in her purse, the check folded inside, and could hardly believe the morning had been real. "Mama, you okay?" Daniel asked as they walked home from the bus stop. "You seem different." Maya stopped walking and knelt down to her son's eye level. "Baby, I need to tell you about something that happened today." She found a bench in a small park nearby and told Daniel everything about finding the error, about reporting it, about meeting Mr. Knight, Crawford, about the job offer and the check. Daniel's eyes grew wider and wider as she spoke. When she finished, he threw his arms around her neck. "Mama, you're a hero," he said. Maya laughed, tears streaming down her face. "I'm not a hero, baby. I just did what was right." "That's what heroes do," Daniel said with the simple wisdom of childhood. That evening, Maya cashed the check. She had to go to the bank in person because the amount was so large. The teller's eyes widened when she saw it, but she processed it professionally and congratulated Maya. Maya paid off every bill she owed. She paid 3 months of rent in advance. She bought Daniel new school clothes, new shoes, a proper desk for homework. She bought herself 2 professional outfits for her new job. She opened the savings account and deposited half of what remained. But the most important thing she did was take Daniel out to dinner at a restaurant they had only passed by before, never daring to enter. As they sat across from each other in a booth eating burgers and sharing French fries, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. "I'm going to take that job," she told Daniel, "and I'm going to go back to school, finish my degree. It's going to take time, and I'll still have to work hard, but baby, things are going to get better for us." Daniel beamed at her. "I'm proud of you, Mama. I'm proud of you too, baby. You've been so strong, so patient. You've never complained, even when things were hard." "You taught me that," Daniel said. "You taught me that we don't give up and we don't cut corners." Maya reached across the table and took her son's hand. "We're going to be okay," she said. "Better than okay. We're going to build a good life, together." In the weeks that followed, Maya began her new position in Crawford Financial Group's compliance department. The work was challenging, but she loved it. She was good at attention to detail, good at following processes, good at finding errors before they became problems. Richard Crawford made a point of stopping by her desk once a week, always asking about Daniel, always interested in how she was settling in. He had become not just her CEO, but a mentor, someone who genuinely cared about her success. Maya enrolled in online business courses, working toward completing her degree. Daniel continued to excel in school, his confidence growing as he watched his mother transform their lives. But perhaps the most important change was internal. Maya realized that she had spent years feeling invisible, feeling like her work didn't matter, like she didn't matter. Now she understood that every job mattered, every detail mattered, every person mattered. She had been seen, and in being seen, she had found the courage to see herself differently. 6 months after that fateful night, Richard Crawford called an all-company meeting. Maya sat in the auditorium with hundreds of other employees wondering what the announcement would be. Richard took the stage and spoke about the company's values, about integrity, about the importance of every single person in the organization. Several months ago, he said, this company faced a threat that could have destroyed everything we built. We were saved by someone who had every reason to simply look the other way, but who chose instead to speak up. I want to introduce you to that person. Maya's heart stopped as Richard gestured for her to join him on stage. With shaking legs, she walked up the steps. The auditorium full of people applauded, but she barely heard them. Maya Henderson, Richard said, his voice warm, joined this company as a night custodian. Through her diligence, her integrity, and her courage, she prevented a fraud that could have cost this company hundreds of millions of dollars and destroyed countless lives. Today, I'm proud to announce that Maya has been promoted to Senior Compliance Analyst and will be leading a new initiative to ensure that integrity remains at the core of everything we do. The applause was thunderous. Maya looked out at the sea of faces and saw respect, admiration, appreciation. That evening, as she and Daniel celebrated with ice cream at home, Daniel said, "Mama, do you remember what you told me that morning? That you work so hard because you want me to have a better life?" "I remember, baby." "Well, you've given me something better than just a better life. You've shown me what kind of person I want to be." Maya pulled her son close and held him tight, understanding in that moment that this love, this connection, this shared understanding of what truly mattered was the real treasure. The money was helpful. The job was wonderful. The recognition was gratifying. But what mattered most was that she had stayed true to herself, stayed true to her values, and in doing so had shown her son that character, integrity, and courage were worth more than gold. 2 years passed, and Maya's life continued to transform in ways she had never imagined possible. She completed her business degree, graduating with honors while working full-time, and raising Daniel. Crawford Financial Group not only supported her education, but celebrated it, with Richard Crawford himself attending her graduation ceremony. Maya's department grew, and she became known throughout the company as someone who combined rigorous standards with genuine compassion. She never forgot where she came from, never forgot the night shift workers who still cleaned the offices she now occupied. She made a point of learning their names, asking about their families, treating them with the respect and dignity she had once craved for herself. Daniel, now 10 years old, thrived. His teachers continued to praise his intelligence, but they also noted something else: his kindness, his integrity, his willingness to help others even when it cost him something. "He's a lot like his mother," one teacher told Maya at a parent-teacher conference. "He has a strong moral compass." Maya smiled, her heart full, but perhaps the most unexpected development came when Richard Crawford approached her with a new opportunity. "Maya," he said, sitting across from her in her office, "I've been thinking a lot about legacy lately, about what I want this company to be remembered for, and I realize that the best thing we could do is help create more people like you." He explained his vision: a scholarship program for single parents pursuing business education, combined with a mentorship initiative that would pair them with company executives. "I want you to lead this initiative," Richard said. "You understand what these people are going through. You understand the barriers they face. And you're living proof that with support and opportunity, people can transform their lives." Maya accepted without hesitation. The Henderson Opportunity Scholarship, named at Richard's insistence despite Maya's protests, launched 6 months later. It provided full tuition for single parents, plus a stipend for childcare and living expenses, along with guaranteed job placement upon completion of their degree. The first cohort included 12 single mothers and 3 single fathers, all working multiple jobs, all struggling to provide for their children, all dreaming of something better. Maya met with each of them personally, sharing her story, encouraging them, reminding them that they were not alone. "I know how hard this is," she told them at the first orientation meeting. "I know what it's like to work all night and wonder if it's ever going to get better. I know what it's like to make choices between paying bills and buying groceries. I know what it's like to feel invisible, like your work doesn't matter, like you don't matter." She paused, looking at each face in the room. "But you do matter. Every single one of you matters. The work you do matters. The way you show up for your children matters. The integrity you bring to your life matters. And I'm here to tell you that better days are coming, not because someone is going to save you, but because you're going to save yourself. We're just here to help." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Over the next year, Maya watched these 15 parents transform their lives, just as she had transformed hers. Some struggled. Some wanted to quit. But Maya was there for all of them, encouraging, supporting, believing in them, even when they struggled to believe in themselves. When the first cohort graduated, all 15 found positions within Crawford Financial Group or partner companies. The program was deemed such a success that Richard decided to expand it, creating similar initiatives in other cities. Maya was promoted to Vice President of Social Impact, overseeing all of Crawford Financial Group's community investment programs. At the celebration dinner following the promotion announcement, Richard raised his glass in a toast. "To Maya Henderson," he said, "who reminded me that business is not just about profit, but about people, who showed me that integrity matters more than expedience, who proved that giving people opportunity and believing in their potential can change not just individual lives, but entire communities." He paused, his voice thick with emotion. "3 years ago, Maya saved my career. But more than that, she saved my soul. She reminded me why I started this company in the first place, to build something meaningful, something that mattered, something that made the world better." Maya stood to respond, looking around the room at colleagues who had become friends, at a company that had become family, at a life she had built through courage and integrity. "3 years ago," she said, "I was cleaning an office at midnight, exhausted and wondering if things would ever change. I found an error in a document, and I had a choice. I could ignore it, or I could speak up." She looked at Richard. "I spoke up not because I expected anything in return, but because my mother taught me that integrity is what you do when nobody's watching. Because I wanted to be able to look my son in the eye and tell him that character matters, that doing the right thing matters, even when it's hard, even when it costs you something." She turned to address the whole room. "What I've learned is that the smallest actions can have the biggest consequences. One decision, made in a moment, can change everything, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you." Her voice grew stronger. "Each of you makes decisions, everyday decisions about how you treat people, how you do your work, whether you speak up or stay silent. Those decisions matter. You matter. Never forget that." Daniel, sitting at the table with Mrs. Chen, who had been invited as honored guest, beamed with pride at his mother. Later that night, as Maya tucked Daniel into bed in their new apartment, a spacious 2-bedroom in a safe neighborhood with good schools, he said, "Mama, do you ever think about that night? The night you found the error?" "Sometimes," Maya admitted. "Why do you ask?" "Because I think about it a lot. I think about how you could have just gone home, but you didn't. You stayed and did what was right, and because of that, everything changed." He paused. "I want to be like that, Mama. I want to be someone who does what's right, even when it's hard." Maya kissed her son's forehead, her heart overflowing with love and gratitude. "You already are, baby," she whispered. "You already are." As she turned off the light and closed the door, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From struggling single mother to corporate vice president, from invisible night shift worker to respected leader. But the titles and the salary weren't what mattered most. What mattered was that she had stayed true to herself, that she had shown her son the power of integrity, that she had taken her pain and struggle and transformed them into purpose. She had proven that one person doing one right thing could change the world, not through grand gestures or dramatic heroics, but through simple integrity, through attention to detail, through the courage to speak up when it would have been easier to stay silent. That was her legacy. That was what she would pass on to Daniel, to the scholars in her program, to everyone whose life she touched. The quiet power of doing what's right, even when nobody's watching, especially when nobody's watching. This is the story of Maya Henderson, a single mother who worked as a night custodian and discovered a critical error in a financial document that would have destroyed a company and a man's career. Despite having every reason to ignore what she found, Maya chose to speak up, demonstrating that integrity and attention to detail matter regardless of your position in life. Integrity is what you do when nobody's watching. Maya could have ignored the error and gone home. No one would have known. But she did what was right because her character demanded it. Every job matters, and every person matters. Maya was just a custodian, but her diligence and moral courage saved thousands of jobs and prevented a catastrophic fraud. Small actions can have enormous consequences. One decision, made at midnight by a tired single mother, changed the trajectory of countless lives. Character's the greatest legacy. More than money or position, Maya gave her son the example of integrity, teaching him through her actions what truly matters in life. Doing the right thing often requires courage. Maya risked her job by speaking up. She had to overcome fear and doubt. But courage, as she proved, is about doing what's right even when you're afraid. Your circumstances don't define your worth. Maya was struggling financially, working multiple jobs, but she never compromised her values. She knew that dignity and integrity cost nothing, and they're worth everything. If this story touched your heart, if Maya's courage inspired you, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to this channel for more stories that celebrate the quiet heroes among us, the people who make the world better one right decision at a time. Remember, you have the power to change lives, starting with your own. All it takes is the courage to do what's right, even when it's hard, even when nobody's watching. Thank you for listening, and may you find the courage to be your own kind of hero.